everybody, welcome back to Sunflower Cottage Crochet. I am Sarah, and today I'm going to show you how to work up my friendship square pattern, which is the raised diagonals. I do consider this to be a more intermediate to adventurous beginner pattern. It does lend itself toward cabling, but there aren't any twisting of stitches. You're just setting stitches up to look like it's cabling. So that should help a little bit to the beginners that might be a little leery about trying this one out. But fear not, because the video will definitely help you get you on your way. Excuse me. So what you're going to need is worsted weight yarn. For this video, I'm going to use Stylecraft Aran. Aran is worsted. And if you're curious, this color is magenta. So I'm going to shove that off to the side, and I have plenty pulled out here. I normally am reaching for yarn all throughout the video. And I'm going to go ahead and put a slip knot on my hook and explain a little more to you about the pattern itself first before we get started. And by the way, this is a Furls Odyssey 5mm hook. You're going to need that 5mm. And now I'm going to zoom into just a little. So the chain up of one does not count as a stitch. When you're working post stitches, you need to skip the stitch behind the post stitch that you just worked. That will, if you work in that, it'll end up counting as 2 stitches, and you don't want to increase your numbers of stitches per row. And every even numbered row is considered the wrong side of the work, and therefore is worked the same, but I did still write it out for you in the pattern. That is just a single crochet straight across row to get you back to the front of the work, because we don't do any back post stitches, we're just doing front post stitches. Okay, grabbing my notes here. See, got my pattern. Now, unfortunately, I had some typos, some errors on my original pattern that is in the bundle, and I sincerely apologize for that. But you can download for free, and it's also on our blog for free. During the crochet-along, you can download it for free out on Ravelry or any of the stores, as long as you have the code, which is part of the whole event. Most of you are getting it that way anyway. So, but again, if you did buy the bundle, I apologize, but there were a couple of typos, and I needed to go ahead and fix that for you. All right, with that out of the way, don't seem to have the very first. There we go. So you will need to know how to do a front post double crochet. We do have a video for that, and you have an option of doing a foundation single or a chain up. I'm going to do the chain up because that's what most people are comfortable with. If you can do a foundation single crochet, go for it. The multiple for this stitch pattern is 10, and if you're chaining, it's 10 plus 1. If you're just doing foundation single crochet, it's 10. All right, so to get started, for how this is written, you're going to chain 31 and then single crochet in the second chain from hook and across. And if you're doing a foundation single crochet, you're just going to do 30 of those. So I'm going to get us started with the chain up of 30. I have 10 here, and I'll meet you back when I have 30. I'm back and actually have 31. I keep thinking 30 stitches, but yes, I have 31 chains. Okay, now I need to go ahead and start working my single crochets back across my chain, and I do so working in the back humps of the chain because I like the 2-stitch bottom or 2-loop bottom that it gives me. That it ends up looking a lot like a foundation single crochet. So this is a nice little trick if you're not comfortable with foundation or chainless foundation rows, or you just don't like them. This is another fantastic way to have a clean edge that you can work into when doing borders. Makes it so much sturdier. and you can see that there's no weird gapping going on. Okay, so I'm going to finish up this row, and I will meet you back at the end, and then we'll go on to row 2. All right, I have row 1 done. For those of you that did foundation single crochet, you can now just chain 1, and for those that did the chain up, you can also just chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to work, we're on the wrong side of the work, and I mentioned earlier that all wrong side rows are going to be single crochet rows. I apologize that there was some noise in the background, but that was our furnace. It's quite cold in Kansas right now. Snow on the ground everywhere and all that jazz. All right, so I'm just going to single crochet myself back across, starting with the first stitch, because that chain 1 does not count as anything. It's just to get you up to height. Okay, so when I finish this, I will be right back, and I'll zoom us in because now we're going to get into the good stuff. Okay, meet you back at the end. All right, I'm back, and I have finished row 2. Pretty simple so far, just 2 single crochet rows, and I've zoomed you in because now we're getting into the fun stuff. All right, so for row 3, there's a paragraph of instructions there that looks a little tough, but we're going to break it down, and I'm going to give you some tips as well, because tips are always handy, right? Okay, so excuse me, we're going to chain up 1 and turn. And first tip, every row is going to start out with a single crochet in the very first stitch, and that does not count sorry, as part of any repeat for your stitching at all. Also, this pattern is made up of a 10 row repeat that does not start until wow, until row 5. Sorry, I have some allergies too to go with all this stuff that's going on. All right, so now we need to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So this leads me to my next tip for you about this pattern. You're always going to have 5 single crochet between your post stitches. So you may not always start and end with 5, but you will always have 5 between them as you work down the row. So the next thing we're going to do is put a front post double crochet around the next single crochet, but we're not going to do it around the one that's in the row that we just worked, but we're going down a row below. So the best way to know exactly which one that is to find your, because now you're facing the front of that row, find your single crochets and count them. So here's 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're skipping that, and here's the 6th one. Skip the first 5 that you already technically worked over, and we're going to place a front post double crochet around the 6th single crochet all the way down on row 1. Be sure to skip that stitch behind you, then you chain 1, skip 1, and put a front post double around the next one. We're no longer looking at the top of our row like we normally do. We're looking down at row 1. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and put a front post double around this next one. And now we do no longer chain, but I want you to, in case you're curious about, where to place your next stitch, flip your post stitches down and count the empty bits, okay? So remember when I said the multiple was 10? Well, the 10 consists of 5 single crochet and 5 post and chain stitches. So you do your post, chain, post, chain, post, and then you're going to start your single crochets. Okay, so you count 5 empty spots back here, and in the 6th one you start doing your single crochets. So I'm going to count these empty ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I know in this one I'm going to pinch it with my other hand and bring my work back up. This is the one right here that I'm going to start putting my stuff in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And so we single crochet in that next stitch. Okay, and now we're gonna, that's the repeat, is 4 at the start, our 5 stitches across here, and then 1 at the end. That's 5 single crochet and 5 of our cabling stitches. Now the repeat for this row is 4 single crochet in the next, well, single crochet in each of the next 4. I always word that so poorly in my mind too, so sorry about that. So now we have our 5 between when we're going to start our next post stitching. And this being the next stitch down here, this is where we're going to start our front post. If yours don't line up so perfect, because mine, this is the first time mine actually have lined up so nice, I ended up counting. So I know this yarn actually is kind of hard to see on camera for some reason. The white yarn was better, sorry guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and yep, I was right. 6 is the one we're going to work in. Chain 1, skip 1, work around this next one with a front post double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next single crochet and work another front post around the next one. Now we have our 3, so we're done chaining up. And remember what I said about finding where your next stitch is going to be to put that single crochet. Flip your work down and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to pinch the one I know I need to work in and put a single crochet there. So now we have done 2 repeats of our post stitching. And I'm going to finish the pattern out. It says do this 4 single crochet, post chain, post chain, post, single crochet until you only have 9 stitches left. So for those of you that are using thinner yarn and you have the multiple, so you may have more of these post and chain stitches than we do here for the pattern, you're going to do that until you have only 9 stitches left. And then there's an ending written for the pattern, which is to single crochet in each of the next 4. So we're keeping our balance of 5 single crochet between each set of post stitches that we're doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then we're going to front post around the next single crochet there from row 1. Then you chain 1, skip 1. So we're skipping this one, and then we're going to front post around that one. And then we're going to single crochet in each of the last 2 stitches. So we're not finishing this one out because it's going to run into the edge of the work. Essentially it's coming out of the edge and it's going to go up at a diagonal this way. They all are, and you'll see that more as we move on. So now for row 4, it is a repeat of row 2, which again is just a single crochet across. I'm going to work that off camera and I will meet you back here at the end. One thing I did almost forget to tell you is when you're working your single crochets across, you are going to come up on your chain spaces. You can either put a single crochet in the stitch itself, like so, or get to my next one here, you can just put one around it. Truth be told, I put mine around, doesn't really matter. But you do need to put a single crochet in, on, or around the chain spaces, okay? Just thought I would note that for you. All right, and I will meet you back at the end. All right, so I have completed row 4, and I want to say yet another thing here about this. Row 4 marks the first row of your repeat of rows. So this, as I mentioned earlier, also consists of about 10 rows of repeat in the pattern stitching so that you get your diagonals to grow the proper way. Excuse me. So For row 5, we're going to chain up 1 and turn, and remember I mentioned you're always going to start with a single crochet in the very first stitch. Now we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Okay. My next tip is you're always going to have one that gets left behind, the furthest one to the left, and then you're going to build up the next 2 and start one to farthest right. So instead of counting your single crochets this way, which this is 1, 2, and 3, and then I would work in this one and skip this one, I'm going to count backwards from the post stitch. So I know I'm going to work the post and I'm going to skip the one next to it, and I'm going to end up working in this one. So I'm going to put a front post double around this next single crochet from row excuse me, row 3, and then I'm going to chain 1, skip this next one, and I'm going to put a front post around the front post. So pattern does start to get a little easier because you start working around post stitches instead of finding a single crochet, but you will always have to find one single crochet. Sorry guys. Chain 1 and then front post around the next front post. Now we've done our post, chain, post, chain, post. We're not doing any more. We're leaving this one behind because it needs to grow diagonally. So now we're going to put, how many single crochets do you think between? If we started with 2, we're going to end with 3. So I probably should have counted to double check that, right? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, I was correct. So I'm going to single crochet in the next 3, and that's the actual repeat for this row, is to start out with 2 singles, then work our post, chain, post, chain, post, and then end with 3 single crochet. That gives 5 singles and 5 of our posting. But to make it easier to know what you're doing for the rest of the row, remember I said you're going to have 5 single crochets between each of your postings. So we have 3 already, so we know we're going to start with 2 more, just like the repeat tells us, start with 2. And again, I'm going to find this post, skip this one, and work in this next one over here. And work a front post double, chain 1, skip 1, front post double around the next front post double, chain 1, front post around the next front post double. And if you need to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to work a single in the next 3. And again, you do this until you only have 9 stitches left. Those are the magic numbers. And for the ending, it's pretty much the same. You're going to start out with your 2 more single crochets to make it 5 between. And then you're going to find the 2 you're going to be working with, put a front post around the next single crochet from row 3, chain 1, front post around the next front post. And remember that we are leaving one behind, but we didn't have one over here. We started with 2. So we are actually going to build this one up. That's why there's a separate instructions for the ending, because they are going to be slightly different, but it carries the pattern forward. Now we have our 3, we don't chain up anymore, we just place a single crochet in each of the next 2. Okay, now we're going to chain 1 and turn and repeat row 2, which is to single crochet across, and that does once again include putting a single crochet in each of the chain spaces as well. Make sure you keep your stitch count of 30 or whatever you needed to get the width, as long as it is a multiple of 10. And I'm going to finish this row out, and I will meet you back at the end. Okay, I am back at the end of my wrong side row, which is the single crochet across, and that would have been row 6. We are now moving on to row 7 shortly. Okay, I'm back at the end, and we had just finished up row 6, which was the repeat of row 2 to single crochet across. Now I'm going to chain up and turn, and we will start with that single crochet in the very first stitch and begin row 7. So it says immediately we're going to front post around the next stitch here. So here's this one, we know we're going to skip that one, and so we need to work this one. So front post double around the next single crochet from row 5, chain 1, skip 1, front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around this next front post. So we've done our 3 post stitches. Now we know we're going to leave this one behind, just as we had left this one behind. And you can see that it's sort of like stair stepping up. So you know next round we're going to be leaving this one behind. So we're only going to have 2 post stitches to make. Okay, so we're going to skip our 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put a single crochet in the next. And the instructions for this to place it in the next 5, which we knew would be 5 in the end anyway, right? 3, 4, and 5. So that's the repeat. We start immediately with our post stitching, and then we do 5 single crochet. So now we're going to start all over, and we're going to immediately start with our post stitching. So here's the first post we're going to come up. This is the one we need to skip before it. So now we're going to work around this next one. We'll put a front post double around this next single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and put a front post around the next front post. Chain 1 and put a front post around the next front post. And then I'm going to count up my 5 so I know I'm not placing it in the wrong spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I know I need to work 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, boy, that just didn't want to get around my fingers there. And again, the magic number to the end is to only have 9 stitches left, but you still carry the pattern forward. And you know we're leaving this behind, so we're going to front post around this next single here, chain 1, excuse me, skip this next one, and then front post around this next one, chain 1, and then front post around this next front post. And now that we're all done with that, it says to single crochet in each of the last 4. So instead of counting behind here, we go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I can see that this is the one I need to work in. I can verify it if I want to make sure I didn't mess up somewhere else. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, this is the one. So pull my yarn a little tighter there. Single crochet in the last 4, and that keeps the pattern in balance because we started with a single crochet at the very beginning. Technically, it keeps it in balance. And so now you can see that it is starting to stair step. Okay, and so for row 8, we're going to do another row 2. So we just single crochet back across to start row 9, and I will meet you here at that point. Okay, I've completed row 8, which was single crochet across, which will bring us back to the front of the work. So we chain up 1 and turn, and we put our single crochet in the first stitch. And now immediately we're going to front post around this next front post, chain 1, and front post around the next front post. And then that completes our post stitching, because we're going to be leaving this one behind to grow up our stair stepping. Okay, so now we need to single crochet in each of the next 5. So I did 3 stitches here. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna work my next 5 starting here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what's happening is this diagonal is now going to start disappearing into the side of the work, and then we'll build a new one going this way. Alright, so now we need to work into this next single crochet. We're going to skip this one and then work around this post. So front post around the next single, chain 1, skip 1, front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post. And now we're going to leave this one behind and then put 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. I'm going to count mine in the back to make sure that I am not placing 2 in 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My next one is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And as always, the magic number is 9. We're not there yet. We're going to front post around the next single crochet and chain 1. Now we should be at our 9. Skip 1, front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post, and then again we should be ending with a single crochet in each of the last 6 stitches. So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that's where I need to start. And that is the completion of row 9. So now for row 10, we're going to repeat row 2. We're going to single crochet across, and I will meet you back at the end of that. Okay, I've completed row 10. I have single crocheted across to bring myself back to the front. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to work row 11. So we're going to single crochet in the first single, and then immediately once again we're going to front post around this next front post, and then we're going to start single crocheting in each of the next 5, because again we're stair stepping and this one's disappearing into the side of the work. So I verify I'm going to skip 1 and then start doing 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Whoop. 5. Right, now we're going to start our front posting again. So I can see that this is the one I need. So I'm going to do it, but can't talk. Going to front post, double crochet around the next single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post. And we're leaving this one behind. We're going to single crochet in each of the next 5. I'm going to count my skipped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and verify that this is my next stitch to start with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I can see already, based on these 3, that this one right here is my next. So I'm going to front post around that next single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post, and then single crochet in the next 5. Okay, I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and we're down to the end here. So it says to front post double around the next single. So I'm going to count here. This is one of them, 2 and 3. And then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and then put a single crochet on top of the last stitch of the row. So now where it's disappearing over here, it's starting a new one over here. Okay, and you can really start to see the buildup of the diagonals at this point. All right, so for row 12, once again is a repeat of row 2. We're just going to single across, and I will meet you there. Okay, I have completed my row 12, and now I'm going to start on the final row of the repeat for this pattern, and that would be row 13. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn, as per usual, and then we're going to single crochet in the first. Now we're going to single in each of the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we already have our 5. Now remember, I said this first diagonal was going to disappear into the side. Well, now it has, and we're going to start a new one, which is technically a continuation of this next one. So we're going to front post around the next single and chain 1, and then front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post, and then we're going to work 5 single crochet. So I'm going to count my behind here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that this is my next one to work in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to place a front post double around the next single crochet, and chain 1, skip 1, front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post. And that should take us down to our last 9. And I'm going to count my 5 behind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it says 2. Well, you end technically with a single crochet on this one. Now we have 9. So we're going to single crochet until we have 5 between. So I already have 1. I'm going to do the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to continue the startup of our new diagonal here, and we're going to front post around this next single, chain 1, skip 1, front post around this next front post, and we have 2 stitches left. We're going to chain 1 as if we're still working our front post, skip 1, and then place a single in the last. Okay, so now we are building up our diagonals. So now you will repeat rows 4, which is a single crochet back, through 13, which is the row we just did. And so each section of your work is going to look like this. It's just going to build up. And you'll keep doing this until you have reached your 9 inches. You can stop at any point. It'll look fine no matter what you do, because it's just going to keep growing. But yes, until you have 9 inches high. And then you'll do a simple single crochet border if you like around. And in the instructions, I ask you to place a single crochet, chain 1 single crochet to sort of turn your corners in each corner. and then you will, on your last corner, when you come back around, you're going to be like where you started. Just put a single crochet, chain 1, and then slip stitch to that first single, and that will finish you off. And that is the raised diagonal square. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have questions, you can leave them here in the video or in our group where we have the post for the questions of specific to this square. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.